Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Your host, and I'm excited today to bring to the podcast Don Caddy, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Engineering Innovation. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So Don and I got to meet at the National Postal Forum a few months ago in Indianapolis. And as I've said for a couple of other podcast episodes, I'm really excited when I have the chance to talk to somebody like Don, who's doing some really interesting things from a technology and automation standpoint. So what we'd like to do is introduce everyone to engineering innovation, and Don's the perfect person to do that. So take it away, Don. I think you're calling in from Lafayette, Indiana today, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're based in Lafayette. We've been in business here for we just celebrated our 18th anniversary, which is pretty exciting, for everybody here. We've grown in those 18 years from 2 people as a startup, myself and partner Adam Fleming, to we have 75 team members now, and anyhow, more space than we thought we'd ever have, and we're kind of wondering how we got here. So.
Well, congratulations on the growth and the sustaining the business. And engineering innovation is focused in the parcel and mail system space. But let's talk a little bit about some of the solutions that you're delivering to your customers.
So we start out. We tend to focus on opportunities where we can give customers the most bang for the buck, in terms of automation. And our very first product, for example, was a product to sort flat mail, large envelopes, that you might get insurance statements, health care information in. And at the time, there were very, very highly manual solutions available, and then there were very expensive solutions available. And we developed the Easy Flats product, which fit a niche in between, and got a lot of customers into that space where they were sorting and barcoding them and getting a discount from the Postal Service. And we've carried that forward, through the years in terms of, not only the flat mail, but in our letter solution, where we built a machine that would for smaller operations where they could whirl through a doorway, plug in a 110 outlet. It didn't require the infrastructure that some of the other options did. And then in the parcels game, we've gone into customers that, we provided everything from a manual workstation that OCR reads the address and barcode information to speed up their induction process, to conveyor-based automation that either can read addresses, we can read barcodes, weigh, dimension, do all these things, sort, basically trying to leverage, as labor's a big deal right now, getting labor, and we're trying to take the labor you have and get as much out of them as you can. So
I always think that when you have automation, it's not a matter of eliminating jobs, but really elevating the good employees that you have on staff to do more value-added things.
Absolutely. So we take customers that are we take the employees that customers have, as you said, elevate them into machine operators. Some have moved on to careers in maintenance because it turns out, hey, this guy's pretty good at fixing stuff. And yesterday he was manually sorting packages, and now he's moving into a career as more of a maintenance tech. So so we feel like we make opportunities for the employees that you do have to advance in what they're doing. So
and it keeps them happier. Hopefully it keeps them around and provides opportunities, like you said, because labor is that really at the tip of everyone's tongue, and in virtually every industry, but certainly when it comes to the folks that are printing and mailing or doing fulfillment.
And we really don't focus on eliminating. As you said, we don't eliminate positions so much as we try to amplify them. So there are people out there trying to do 100% automation, shut the lights out and just everything magically happens, and that's really not what we do. We focus more on the pain points in our operation, the more mundane tasks. The more mundane the task is, the more likely it is to have errors, and the harder it is to find people. And so we try to focus on those pain points and figure out a solution to alleviate that.
But on top of that, it's really about speed and automation, which I think your products really lend themselves to. Not speed and automation, but rather speed and efficiency. Right?
Yeah. So, so we take, for example, one of our operations, we've put a number of machines in for a customer, and, where they had people at manual stations that we'd provided doing, 600 or 700 pieces an hour tops. Now, 2 people are feeding a machine at 4,000 an hour. So it's way much more efficient for the operation, and more consistent performance in terms of, how they get weighed, how they get labeled, all those things. So
you've probably seen a lot of growth and certainly some big jumps in technology in terms of the ability of the machines to certainly be automated, but in terms of the scanning capabilities and the ability to be way more consistent than any human could be.
Yeah, we've been even in my previous career, we've done a lot with scanning, particularly in OCR technology, as well optical character recognition. So we have systems that can literally read the address off of a package, even handwritten addresses off a package. So, and that converting that handwritten address into something that the machine understands is very painful for people to do. It involves typing, and it's about the only way to really get it in there. But with the technology we've developed for cameras, the lighting, the glare reduction, all those things to get a good image, and then the software behind it to do the reading, that's a thing the machine can do very well. And so we've been doing that for on mail for a long time, and then in the last, say, 10 years, we've been adapting it to parcels. So
it's amazing to me that a computer with a camera can read handwriting, especially bad handwriting in many cases. How does that work exactly? Does it take a lot of computing power to get that done?
Not as much as you'd think. We're running, I would say, high-end desktop computers. We're not running like, very large-scale systems, very large-scale computers or workstations or whatnot. So, obviously, the faster you go, because some of our letter sorter, we're reading those addresses and we're reading 10 a second. So, the software's, there's been a lot of work to optimize the software for speed done. So, and it really is amazing what it can do. We actually took a machine, probably 15 years ago, to a middle school science fair and let the kids write their address on envelopes and stick them in the machine and see it pop up on the screen as read. So it's pretty cool.
That is amazing, for sure. I bet their handwriting was probably better than mine, though.
It's definitely better than mine.
Definitely helps the doctors in the world who have the worst handwriting ever, I suppose.
Yeah.
So talk about some of the success stories that you've been able to implement for your customers. I mean, other than the obvious, you were able to empower them to do more with less, or in less time, for sure. What are some of the things that are maybe on the little more creative than just the average thing that you're able to provide?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is we went into a customer who was sorting a lot of parcels. They're doing international parcels, so cross-border, into different countries, whatnot, parcels, and they really wanted a way to sort the parcels, and so we visit their site and we're looking around, and this is the stuff you only find out when you're actually willing to go in and watch people operate. But we watched them operate, and we realized that the vast majority of their labels was not in labor was not involved in sorting it. It was involved in inducting it into their system, the weighing, the scanning, and all those things. And so we went in, we looked, and we were like, well, that looks like the biggest pain point is over there. And they said, oh yeah, definitely, but nobody can fix that, so we're skipping it. And we're like, well, let's take another look and see if we can fix that. And ultimately, we did some work and figured out a way that we could fix it. And so they still haven't bought a sorter because they've realized that bang for the buck, people can do it better than they can buy a machine, but they are doing their induct on automation. And again, they didn't even recognize that as a possibility until we visited with them and actually looked to see what they were doing. So
It's a lot like any business, consulting, where you really needed to look at what's the current state, and where are those bottlenecks that you're talking about.
and a lot of people are hesitant because anybody who's hired consultants, probably has mixed experiences. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it's that's just a way to sell a product. And so we tend to we focus a lot on our business relationship. So we're not in it for the consulting contract. We're in it for long term. And if we walk in and we go, yeah, nothing we can do to help you, or we don't add any value here, we can point people in the right direction, maybe, or not, or we just say, hey, something else comes up, let us know, but we really are not the best candidate for this. And the beautiful thing about that is people call you back then. When they have the next problem, they call you because they know they'll get an honest answer. And we won't try to, shove something into their operation that isn't right for them. So we're definitely in it for the long haul. So
Yeah, for sure. And talk about a great sell, or selling tool. Just saying no, that I can't do that for you, but here's somebody else who can, I think just rings true with a lot of folks, for sure. But you're right, you don't want to put something in there that's just going to create another bottleneck or dissatisfaction.
Yeah, and then we're just going to be button heads for the next few years, and doesn't benefit anybody long term.
Sure. So what are some of the developments that you've seen in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years, or that you predict are going to happen in the industry in the next 3 or 4? Would you expect the introduction of more robotics, for example, or any other big jumps from a technology standpoint that are going to benefit these companies to make them run even faster than they are today?
Well, robotics are interesting because there's the holy grail, I'll say, of sorting parcels is to find a robot that can pick a parcel off out of a Gaylord, out of a large box off a skid, pick it up, face it, and put it on a machine. And there's lots of people doing it, attempting it. At this point, it's very expensive, and it's not all of them are ready for prime time, but they're getting better. They also are not particularly fast, but again, you learn from that and get better. So I do predict that technology will. I do predict that technology in the next few years will make quite a. I think it's going to make a pretty good leap. Primarily around the image processing is getting so much better that you can, with better stereo cameras and whatnot, you've got, because really it's not as much about the robot picking the piece up and moving it as it is telling the robot where to go and how to find the piece and how to pick this one piece out of a pile. And how to separate, people ship in poly bags a lot now, as you've probably gotten, you get a t-shirt, it comes in a plastic bag, right, with a label on it. Well, if you dump, 1,000 of those into a box and then tell the robot to pick them out one at a time, he has to have a good picture and good image processing to figure out where to go to grab that piece. So I do think that, you mentioned robotics, but I do think that's going to be a big push in the next few years. And I think we're going to see some, I think we're right at the edge, or the precipice of some real change there. So
I've seen some really interesting robotics when it comes to wide format printing and packaging, especially where you're talking about robots that are inducting the board or the media into the printer, where they can do it with a very uniform pallet at a time type function, as opposed to what you're talking about, one piece at a time.
Yeah, and we have, there's been robots out there that palletizing boxes and depalletizing boxes and consistent things for a long time. The industry where we're at, where people are getting mixed parcels, gets, like I said, more complicated because you've got a bunch of parcels of various types dumped in a box, for example, a Gaylord. But yeah, I think we're going to see some big improvements in the next few years. So if you go to any of the big trade shows like Modex or ProMat, you can't hardly, can't as they say, throw a stick without hitting a robot. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating to watch, but to your point, it's well developed in some areas and it's still got a little bit to go in others, for sure.
So
And I guess lastly, do you see some of your customers motivated not just by improving their operations but by what's going on at the Postal Service in terms of rates and programs?
Yeah, I will say what we're seeing is a lot of alternative carriers popping up as a result of what the Postal Service is doing. The Postal Service is making. Sorry, Bethany's probably there laughing about what my thoughts are because I get kind of animated on this topic. But the thing is, the Postal Service is raising prices and lowering service standards. So what that's opening up is huge opportunities for other carriers. The private delivery companies that are out there. There's a number of them. Like On Track and like OSM uses a lot of postal, but do some private delivery. So there's all these companies out there doing private delivery and growing those networks as an alternative to the Postal Service, or even an alternative to UPS and FedEx and the big names. So we were exhibiting at Parcel Forum recently, and they have an area of the show for regional carriers or private carrier, and that area had exploded this year. There were twice as many people exhibiting as there were the year before. So I really would like to see the post office succeed in general. I think that delivery, that everyday delivery to the door is a national asset. But unfortunately, the direction they're taking is tending to push people to look for alternatives. So
amazing to me that they can't, at the Postal Service, figure out a better way to do, if you're going to raise prices, to actually improve service a little bit, because they've certainly got the infrastructure and they've got the technology and the ability. I guess it's a matter of whether they have the will for it.
I think you came right down to it. It's a matter of will. They're also, they have more labor now than they had at the peak of mail volume. Mail decline has been declining, and yet their total labor hours is growing. So yeah, it's not, and they're probably their most I would say successful in terms of, when I say successful, I mean in terms of consistent delivery, is their destination entry product, where you get it, where companies do the work, do the logistics to get the package to the final mile, to the final post office, and then and they do the final mile delivery. They get it to the carrier, and they are like 99.7% next day delivery in that space. It's crazy consistent, and it is by far their most consistent product, and yet they're trying to push people away from it and push them upstream. And as soon as you work your way from the destination entry DDU office, if you go one notch upstream, those numbers drop in the 80%. If you go two notches upstream, it's in the 70s. So seems like if you have a really good product, you would want to encourage that. So,
well, you're getting a government agency to think like a business is always a challenge. But for if you've got that keen ability, maybe you ought to be leading with that, perhaps, right?
Yeah, and to be fair, they have a lot of. I mean, if any of us had to run our business under the with Congress poking their nose in periodically, we'd all struggle. So they have their unique challenges being a pseudo government business. So
yeah, for sure. But let's not get too focused on the on the Postal Service, because it's something that we just don't have a choice but to deal with. But I love what we're talking about, Don. The ability to help your customers be more efficient and maybe offset some of the the challenges of dealing with the Postal Service, for sure. So congratulations on a long and solid history and really helping your customers with cost-effective solutions.
Yeah, we're putting out more and more solutions to get our customers access to these alternatives and more sustainable options. We're in it for the long haul, and we want our customers to be in it for the long haul. So,
fantastic. Well, Don, it's been an absolute pleasure talking about engineering innovations and the good work that you're doing. Could you tell people how to either see you at an upcoming trade show or where to reach you in the meantime?
Well, we're kind of out of the trade show season till next spring, but we do exhibit at the National Postal Forum every year. We also are at ProMat or Modex. Next year it's ProMat in Chicago. Parcel Forum is in the fall, but in the meantime, our website is EII-online.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Facebook, and if people want to sign in at any of those three locations, and we have a really good marketing team that does a nice job with the newsletter that is informational. It's not a sales pitch, so it's anyhow. So if you get us in any of those locations and get it signed up, then there's a really good. I say this, we've only recently implemented or updated, I should say, our blog posting. And so if you go to our website and look at our blog post, there's a lot of information there about things going on in the Postal Service and in industry in general. So
terrific. It's just another example of a lot of the sharing that goes on in this industry, for sure. Well, Don, thank you so much for a terrific conversation, and I hope folks come and check out Engineering Innovation. And just to sum it up for today, this has been Don Caddy, the CEO of Engineering Innovation in Lafayette, Indiana. And I'm Chris Santomassimo, your host from OGC Solutions. We'll see you next time.